Explore the history, relationships, expertise, and data that go into ensuring Stine growers get maximum yield potential. This is the Stine Seedcast. Here's your host, David Thompson.
Hello, and welcome to the Stine Seedcast. I'm your host, David Thompson, National Marketing and Sales Director for Stine Seed Company. We've got another great episode lined up with special guests, expert insights, and discussion on everything you need to know about maximizing yield potential. First of all, I want to welcome Ann Clinton, who's my colleague and Stine's communications manager. She'll be serving as my co-host for the day. So welcome to the show, Ann.
Hi, David. Thank you.
Okay, so our guest today speaking with us is Kyla Berry, a grower from Northwest Missouri who wears many hats on the farm. Welcome to the show, Kyla.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today.
Well, today is a very special episode. On March 1st, Stine launched its 4th annual Women in Ag campaign, which is a month-long celebration recognizing women from all facets of the ag industry and the roles that they serve. Kyla has a unique background. She's a partner on the family farm, serves as a stay-at-home mom, runs a small business in the health and fitness industry. She keeps family, farming, and church top of mind, and she hopes to continue to build a legacy for future generations to come. We look forward to learning all about Kyla and her field in ag. So Kyla, to get us started, tell us a little bit about your operation, where you're at, and just kind of your background.
So we live in Northwest Missouri. We're from Maysville, Missouri, and we have corn, soybeans, and then either in the wintertime, we kind of run feeder calves or we custom graze cows in the wintertime on corn stalks. We actually just loaded out cows yesterday and sent them back to their home. So Alex, we're gearing up. He will be starting his 14th growing season this year. And so we're super excited for that. And the kids always love, the planting season and stuff. So we do apply our own chemical and fertilizer, and then we just like to tackle harvest. We say it's kind of a family affair. Like we do harvest and spring planting. We like to do that. It's kind of, all hands on deck, and we kind of go and we're able to take the kids more and do that as a family together.
Yeah, awesome. Tell us about your path to the farm. I understand that maybe you didn't necessarily grow up on a farm.
I grew up on a dairy farm, so kind of a completely different type of farming. Like it was a whole new, I feel like for me, a learning level coming from like a dairy farm where, you kind of were involved like day-to-day stuff. And then when you come to, more of like the corn, soybean, row crop type farm, it was a completely different thing for me, and learning that and learning like there's different seasons with that. And then, there's different day-to-day activities than like on the dairy farm with that. So it has been a whole new learning level for me with that.
There's just kind of one season in the dairy business, isn't there?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So, Kyla, what were your aspirations when you went into college? What did those early years look like after you graduated?
So when I first went into college, I went to be for an elementary education major. And so I actually I met my husband in high school through FFA. And so we kind of had a connection there, but we didn't actually start dating or anything until college. And we actually was like 2 different colleges, so kind of had a long distance relationship for a while, but I'm glad we reconnected. And so like I said, I went for elementary ed, and I was a teacher after we got married. I was a teacher for 3 years. And so I didn't end up, being a stay-at-home mom and kind of going more like staying at home and being more involved on the farm until after I had the twins and was staying at home.
So you've got a set of twins. How many other kids do you have?
I also have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old.
It's a busy mom.
So you grew up in agriculture in the dairy business, and then, kind of migrated over to the kind of row crop side of the business. What did you learn as a newlywed starting out and starting out in your farm operation there? What lessons did you take in those early years?
Yes. Yeah. I feel like there's lots of different lessons, but one for me that like really stands out is just with the seasons of row crop, like sometimes it's kind of lonely, or like isolated in a sense, because if you are not like actually involved or going to the field, it can be a lonely season. And so I just learned, okay, if I want to see my husband and be involved in this, I'm going to the field. So that's what I did. I went to the field. I asked all the questions, and just went and like rode with him and asked him, my husband, and, my father-in-law, all the questions about what was going on and, like, what does this equipment do? Because like I said, I grew up in a dairy farm. It was completely different. And so just even learning, like the different equipment that they used and why they used it was, very interesting to me. And so I was thankful they didn't mind all the questions and still don't.
What part of the process do you tend to enjoy the most when it comes to growing season?
Oh, I really enjoy the planting part of it. It's just a really fast paced. And I told my husband that too, like that's something I'm really interested in learning more about, the different variety of seeds that we grow and different, we grow Stine beans and different corn variety and things. And so that's something I'm been asking questions and just, interested in learning. And why are we planting this? And how come we're, planting this on this ground? And what are we planting on, a different field? And so I'm learning all of that.
Sounds like your education background is paying off there.
Yeah. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about, during the growing season, what's a typical day like on your farm?
Just like during the growing season, as we head into spring, this year it might look different than it has in the past, just because last year I had a brand new baby. And so I wasn't on, like the farm day to day. But this year, my husband's like, we're going to get you in the tractor and help with planting. So that will be a new fun learning experience again for me. But I just like the farm wife that takes the meals to the field at times, or, like the farm, I call myself, like the farm Uber, because I'm always giving the meat, like, taking, the guys to different fields and stuff like that. And so, helping with run parts in any way I can with different things like that. So my day to day, I'm like flexible. Like I always try to keep my schedule open because I never know what the farm might need. Once the kiddos are off to school, you can get them, kind of where they are. Like obviously, being a mom is still a number one priority, but I'm available and can help, the guys do different things if they need me to.
Yeah. So Stine Seed Company is a family-owned business, and it's very much a working farm. So as I have worked here at Stine, I've learned my kind of place in that process. What would you say is your place in the family farm, and how have you worked with your in-laws specifically to develop a legacy for your family?
Mostly, I work side by side with my father-in-law. Like my mother-in-law has always worked kind of off the family farm, and so not really been involved with the day-to-day and stuff. She's definitely there and helps during harvest. Whenever I was running the grain cart, she would pick the kiddos up for school. She could flex her work hours a little bit, and so she was able to help get the kids and stuff like that. So that's been very helpful. But really with working with my father-in-law, like I said, just side by side, he's very open and nice to involve me in conversations and explain. And a lot of times he's a better teacher than my husband on running the equipment and things like that. He's very patient with me. And so it's nice that he is open and wants me to be involved and wants the kids to come and be involved. And so, I would, just really enjoy that he's, open to that, especially since it's something new on our farm, for me to be stepping in to help with that. Because like I said, my mother-in-law doesn't work day to day on the farm and involved in it like I am. So it's kind of a new learning transition for all of us.
So you said you grew up on a dairy farm. I guess I'm curious, was it also maybe a multi-generational farm?
It was, but then it had stopped, and then my parents had started it back up. So
just curious, because farming is a unique business in the sense that you do spend a lot of time with your family. If it's a multi-generational operation, that's a rare, I think, and unique opportunity to get to know your family in a new and different way than most of us are accustomed to. So I would assume that there's some lessons you've taken from that and the ability to get to know your family in that, really deep, meaningful way.
Yes. Yeah. It has been really cool, to see, like you said, even just the kids too, to see that and build that relationship, in a working environment, and to see the work ethic and, the hard work and stuff it goes into. And, the kids enjoy that, and enjoy, getting to see, Nana and Papa, as they call them. And so, yes, and it's nice too, to build that relationship and trust. And I feel like, just in the last few years that I've stepped into the farming operation more and learning more with it, I feel like definitely our relationship has grown, and, it's a really good relationship. We can have open conversations about things, and it's just really nice that we have that.
So how do you balance with your children and as they're getting older, the activities that are happening in town? And it sounds like you may have a little bit of a drive to take them back and forth. How are you prioritizing what's important to you on the farm and the opportunities you want to give to your children outside of the farm?
Yes, yeah, that is hard. It's been one of those things, it's been like a learning for us. We've definitely, had to prioritize. We don't do everything. And we have those conversations with our kids and say, like, okay, what activity do you really want to try? Because we can't, do everything. And so we just have really had to prioritize and find out what's important to us and like what do we want our kids, to learn and see. Like, I know all those activities and everything's wonderful and great. But at times, like I said, we just can't do all of that, But it is nice to, like I said, we have my mother-in-law. She is, help with taking kids back and forth if we need to. We've had, some really good friends in the community that's helpful if we do decide to do a few things. But again, we just really prioritize and find what's important and what will kind of go along with our values and what we want to teach our kids. And so there is sometimes, we have to be like, all right, daddy's in the field, Alex is going to the field. I will be the one to take you to this activity, this game and stuff.
Yeah, I think what you're describing is some of the challenges that farm families face, especially with seasonality of different tasks on the farm. So one thing I was going to ask you about is, as a young family starting out, what are the bigger challenges that you face or that you see for young families starting out in a farm operation?
Yes, yeah, I definitely think that is something that is challenging and tough because, our kids sometimes don't get to do everything that all the other kiddos do. And so sometimes they're like, well, how come we can't do that? Or I really want to do that. And so just, explaining to them and having those conversations, especially like our twins, they're 7 and in first grade. So they're really starting to get, more involved or want to be more involved in things. And so we've just had to have those conversations. But I definitely think that is one of the challenges, especially just as far out as we live too. We're about 20 minutes to our kids' school, like one way. And so just even, like the time commitment it takes, that it's a challenge, we've had to be like, okay, again, just explain everything. It's, it can be a huge challenge and the kids want to be involved in everything. And not that we want to tell our kids no and they can't do everything, but sometimes you do have to set those boundaries and really kind of focus on your boundaries and go back again to what's important, what's your values, and what are we wanting to teach our kids, And I always think of like 5 or 10 years down the road, what do we want our kids to be involved with? Where do we want them to go? Where do we want them to go later on in life? And so that's definitely a challenge, and sometimes during harvest, we don't go do the pumpkin patch and, things like that, but we're always like, okay, well, we're going to have fun on the farm, in the field that day. That's definitely a challenge and a conversation my husband and I continue to have, I feel like, all the time.
Yeah.
But you're creating memories in which some other children will not get to have. So what are some of those highlights of the day-to-day life that you are very proud of, that the opportunities you're able to give to your kids?
Yes. The simple going and riding in the tractor, like during harvest, I would take 2 kids, Alex would take 2 kids in the combine. And so we got, you build a relationship, in the tractor and the combine, just having conversations. Are the kids reading to you, which is fun, especially, this year in first grade, they're really starting to read and things like that. And so it was really fun to do that. And even taking, Kyla in at that time, he was 8 or 9 months old in the tractor. And that was a very, interesting thing, but it was also so fun. It was so fun to watch, like through his eyes and the excitement of seeing the combine, like when he would see the combine, he was super excited. And even just, yesterday when we were loading out the cows to head back to their home off our corn stalks, our kids' school is a 4-day school. So we don't go to school on Mondays. So yesterday the kids was able to go over and help, load out the cows and just even hold a simple gate. The kids always think things like that, is the best when they get to help do simple things like that on the farm.
During this month, we are celebrating all women in agriculture and the contributions that they make in each field, is so to speak. Is there somebody in your life, a particular woman who has inspired you to think differently about agriculture, who is day-to-day maybe included in your life that you really look up to?
Well, of course, there's lots of women that I just have seen, take their kids and be more involved in the farm. And like, they really inspired me. And I want to be able to do that too. I want to take my kids in the tractor and help, like I said, it was a learning curve to get with the row crop side and like, okay, how can we involve our kids in this and how can I be involved in this? And so, other women that I have seen, on social media and things do that, I really enjoyed. And then I also have a really dear friend, Addie Yoder. She's a few years older than me, and she's also a farm wife and has 4 kids, and her kids are older than mine. And she has really inspired me, to help me, get on the farm and do more things, and just how she kind of goes and how she's involved in the farm. And so I've really looked up to her, and she's an amazing friend of mine.
You mentioned social media. That brings to mind, I guess, another question I'd have is one of the hallmarks of growing up in rural America is that little bit of isolation that we've talked about throughout this interview. Has social media helped with connecting some of us who maybe didn't grow up in town?
Yes. Yeah, I definitely think so. Addie Yoder, I did actually meet her on social media. And so we've connected in real life and everything too. And we're good friends. But yeah, just having that social media part and seeing that other ladies and women and moms on the farm and women in ag has had really good support. You can always lean into them and have that community. Social media can be a really cool, amazing thing when you're sharing on it and finding other like-minded ladies to do life with if you connect in real life and connect together.
I guess, what advice would you have for young women who are considering maybe an occupation in agriculture, maybe farming, maybe ag-related, and whether they grew up on the farm or not? I think maybe there are folks who are looking at agriculture as a good opportunity for them to make their life in. And I guess curious if you have thoughts or ideas or advice for people who may be looking at that path.
Yeah, I definitely think, do it. Do it scared is something that I've kind of, have been telling myself, just because sometimes stepping out of your comfort zone and doing those things, it's scary. It's scary to start something new. It's kind of scary to all right, I want to run the grain car. I'll help you do that, just stepping out and do those things. But definitely, do it. Ask all the questions. That's one thing that I'm sure my husband and my father-in-law get tired of my questions, but that's how you learn, asking all those questions. And that is one thing too. I said, finding other ladies in the ag community to support you, whether you have some in your family or in your town or on social media, find those ladies, because women in ag is a really cool, amazing thing. And there's so many women out there, and they will help support you, and they will help answer all those questions if you have any questions or anything as well too.
So as you spoke about social media, in many ways, as we're talking about other women in ag, it's a friendly group. When you're considering your messaging out to consumers or to those who may not be familiar with your story, how are you telling your story? What do you think it's important to tell?
Well, sometimes I think you see farmers and people think, oh, they have flexible schedule. I would definitely want to share that part of it. It's hard work. It's not always easy. And that's something we want to teach our kids too. It takes time and it takes hard work, and you definitely have to be, passionate about it. We strive to keep our land well because we want to pass this on to future generations. And so I think that's a big thing that, to share on social media, to share what the farm life is like, because I know some people don't understand just the day-to-day of what a farm family is like and how it, it's not only just the husband doing it, it's the wife and the kids and everybody that is involved, the mother and father-in-law. It takes, an all of us, team effort for it to run fairly smoothly.
Yeah, very much so. And Kyla, you and I met by happenstance at a Stine event. We got to talking, and I just really resonated with your story because there were so many similarities, but yet I saw so much enthusiasm for what you were doing, and we're really proud that you are a Stine customer. What is your affiliation, I guess, and experience with the Stine brand? Why have you guys chosen to grow Stine, and just your overall experiences?
We really have enjoyed the Stine beans. We love the good products and everything that you have. We do really enjoy the beans and all the products and the technology and everything with that. And we have a really good DSM, and he has been amazing to involve not only Alex, but me as well. He's always been open, for me and asking me things and, always inviting me to things, and which is really, I think, cool, as a farmer and a woman in ag, because sometimes a wife just kind of gets, I don't want to say overlooked, but, maybe they're not as involved. And so they just go to the husband with things. And so our DSM, has been great with that, to always involve me and the kids too, and invite us to things. And the customer service has been amazing. And it's really good. We always have good communication too, which has been wonderful.
And I think we can give a nice shout out to Andrew Lance and his wife Jenny, great Stine representative there in Northwest Missouri. So yeah, fantastic. So in a broader sense on that operation, you work with a lot of different partners, a lot of different vendors, a lot of companies that help you do what you need to do. And I guess I'm just curious, what are the people that are helping you get things done? What's your expectations from the companies that you guys want to partner with? And, kind of what do you expect from the vendors? What do you expect them to deliver in terms of value for you?
And I would say one of the biggest thing is the good communication. My husband and I are always we like to have that communication open, and talk about different options. And so that I feel like is a big part for us that we like to have. It's always good to have good customer service and conversations about different things, and it's always good to have a vendor, somebody you can kind of relate with, or just even have conversations that's not all about just the farm or just seed or whatever, to have an actual conversation and can relate to as well.
You brought up a very good point, and one that we talk about in some of our meetings, but you said Andrew Lance does a really good job on including you specifically into those conversations. What would some additional advice be for some of our other salespeople on how to include the female voice in those conversations as you're making input decisions?
I would say, I know Andrew is always really good, about sending me a message being like, hey, I left this for you guys and stuff too. Just feeling like you're included, and always asking, like whenever he invites Alex, he's like, hey, is Kyla going to come with you as well? Or I know there's even been times I think I ran over there and grabbed something for them, and it's not like he just treats you as a normal person in a sense, not like you don't know anything. And so it's nice. You can ask those questions and you don't feel like you don't know anything, but he's also very helpful to learn different things, And a lot of those questions, I do ask my husband and stuff too, just because it's easier to ask, but just to have those conversations or to have just the invite, the invite and feeling welcomed, I think is a huge thing for women, especially farm wives and women in ag.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And as operations grow and become more complex and just the overall world gets more complex, I think we have to understand that these operations are a partnership in every possible way. And so that's great that we're talking to everyone who's involved. Everyone who has a stake in that operation is important. And like you said, communication is key. I think that's a great point. Mm-hmm. Question for you, Kyla, would be, I'm sure that between the farm operation and your family, there's probably not a lot of time left in the day. But everybody needs probably something that is their own. And so I'm curious, as either for yourself individually or as a family, what do you do to have that locked away time as separate from farm and the operation itself?
I actually am partnered with Body. And so I am a health and fitness coach. I have my own little side business on the side. And so I have that where I do health and fitness. And so that has really helped me a lot. I'm an early morning person. And so I get up and I work out and have some time in the Bible, before the kiddos get up. And so that is something that really helps me just, to have that energy to keep up with my kids in the farm and everything, and just to help have a healthy lifestyle, because being a farm, sometimes it can be hard and stressful. And so having that workout, not only helps physically, but also mentally as well too. And so that's something that I have really enjoyed doing for myself and something kind of different than the farm. And so I can show that to my kids as well. A healthy lifestyle goes not only just for, it goes for anybody and everybody too. That farmers need that as well.
You're right. It goes for everybody, but certainly in the area of agriculture, it's hard because particular times of the year, the hours are really, really long. And it's sometimes a challenge to keep up with health and wellness, just physically and mentally sometimes. Yes. So that's good that's yes. something you've got that you're focused on.
So Kyla, as you look towards the future, what do the next few years look like for you and your family?
Of course, with the kids getting older, we'll probably get more busy, I'm sure, with different activities. And just as we're going into the future, I know there'll the farm's always changing and growing with the farm, aspect of it. And so we're definitely, since the last few years, like I said, I've kind of stepped into more of the farming role and helping on the farm operation. Just learning more for me, is a big thing as the years come ahead. Like learning more and learning the planning process and all that is really interesting to me, and learning about that. And just keep, involving our kids on the farm, and that's something I'm sure we'll have more conversations as they get older, what we're involved in and what we do. But definitely, just keeping our priorities in line, and always, like I said before, we always kind of look like, what do we want it to look like in 5 years? Like, what do I want to be doing in 5 years? Where do we want our farm to be in 5 years? And how can we maybe diversify it, or how can we grow it, and change different things on our farming operation?
So anything in particular on that 5-year plan that you're really, really focused on?
Nothing really, right now that we have in mind, like for sure. But, just being something that my husband and I talked about, just being open to change, or whatever might be coming our way. There might be opportunity to grow maybe in the row crop side. Maybe we grow with like having more feeder calves or something like that. We don't have anything like set in mind, but that's something that we've talked about, just being open, because it seems like a change will hit you all at once and you're like, oh, okay, this is what it was going to be, so just kind of being open to, being diversified and seeing where it might take us.
Roll with the punches.
Right. Yeah. Something like that.
We've been visiting today with Kyla Berry, a proud woman in ag from Northwest Missouri. Kyla, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you guys for having me. I've been honored to be here, and I'm just excited to share my story a little bit more with other women in ag. So thank you guys again.
Well, that's our time for today. I'd like to thank our guests and our listeners for joining us on another episode of the Stine Seedcast. We'll be back again soon with more expert interviews and insights about all things Stine. And to never miss an episode, subscribe to the Stine Seedcast wherever podcasts are found.
Subscribe to the Stine Seedcast wherever podcasts are found. To learn more about Stine and its elite corn and soybean genetics, visit stineseed.com. Stine has yield.